I always thought betrayal would arrive like a thunderstorm, dramatic, loud, undeniable. Turns out, it rolls in more like a borrowed car. It was a Tuesday. A nothing Tuesday. Not the kind of day that starts wars or ends marriages. I had just mowed the lawn, my version of meditation, and sat down with a cold beer when my phone buzzed. It was my younger brother, Dylan. The kind of guy who still wore cargo shorts in 2025 and swore by Axe body spray like it was cologne, not chemical warfare. "Bro," he said, in that voice he used when he wanted something. "Can I borrow your car? Just for a few hours." Mine's acting weird again. I didn't ask questions. That's the kind of brother I was. He could have been hauling a body or going to audition for The Bachelor. I still would have tossed him the keys and waved him off. That's what trust does. It blinds you, numbs you, makes you stupid in a real poetic kind of way. So I gave him the keys to my Audi. Now here's the twist. 2 months prior, I had this run-in with a GPS tracking app during a work project. I kept it on my phone for testing. A smart tool, really. Tracks any vehicle it's installed in. I'd quietly added the dongle to my car for fun, mostly to prank Dylan when he drove like a lunatic. After about 45 minutes, curiosity itched. I opened the app. That's when the coordinates punched me in the chest. The address? The Riverside Inn. Now, let me paint you a picture. The Riverside Inn isn't the kind of place you go for brunch or a budget-friendly staycation. It's a dive wrapped in brick with a neon sign that flickers like it's been through 3 divorces. It's where married people go to become temporarily unmarried. A motel with paper-thin walls and hourly rates. Dylan was parked there. And here's where the music changes. Because my wife? She wasn't home either. Said she was getting coffee with her friend Kara. Now, unless Kara moonlights as a motel manager or has a sudden love for sleazy architecture, something was off. And I felt it. Deep. The kind of feeling you can't unfeel, even if you want to. But I didn't jump to conclusions. No, I got in my truck. Yes, the other car, and drove. Not fast. Not with anger. Just a calm, cold cruise toward the address my GPS whispered to me like a traitorous friend who finally found his conscience. I didn't even know what I wanted to see. Maybe Dylan getting a foot massage from a stranger, maybe just a false alarm, some dumb coincidence. But what I saw when I pulled up? When I pulled up to the Riverside Inn, I parked a block away. I didn't want to be that guy storming the gates with righteous fury and a dumb plan. I sat there in the cab of my truck, staring at the place like it owed me money. The Riverside had this charm, if your definition of charm included flickering lights, rusted ice machines, and a stray cat that looked like it smoked menthols. And there, in the lot, was my Audi. Parked backward like Dylan thought he was Vin Diesel escaping a heist. I stared at the car for a full minute, hoping, praying that he was in there alone, just being weird, watching conspiracy videos or something. But then, the door opened, and out stepped my wife, Madison, hair up in that lazy bun she wore when she didn't care what anyone thought. Wearing the exact hoodie she'd left the house in, my hoodie, actually. The one she always said smelled like me when we were still us. She walked out smiling. Like nothing was broken. Like no one's world was about to split down the middle. And trailing behind her, looking like he'd just won the lottery and then cheated on the winnings? Dylan. My brother. The guy who used to eat glue in 2nd grade. The guy who cried during Homeward Bound. The guy who once broke my nose in a backyard football game and cried harder than I did afterward. Yeah, that guy. They didn't touch. No kiss. No hug. Not even a casual hand brush. But they didn't need to. They moved like people who'd already touched, recently. Comfortably. Repeatedly. I felt the truth before I even had to see it. But I stayed still. Watched them part ways, Madison heading down the sidewalk like she was just out for a stroll, and Dylan climbing back into my Audi like he hadn't just detonated the family. I didn't follow. I didn't yell. I just sat. Because the worst part wasn't the betrayal. It was how casual it all looked. How normal. As if hurting me didn't even cost them a second thought. That was the moment something in me hardened. Not broke. Hardened. Because betrayal's a funny thing. It doesn't kill you. It forges you. And the best part? They had no idea I knew. Not yet. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't even try. Just sat at the kitchen table, staring at nothing, while the glow from the porch light made the empty seat across from me look like it was waiting for someone who wasn't coming back. Madison came home late. Said Kara had a lot to unpack emotionally, and you wouldn't believe how much wine we went through. She even smiled. Smiled. I nodded. Rough night. Yeah, she said, hanging up her coat. We just talked and vented. You know how it is. I almost laughed. Oh, I know how it is. And I could have called her out right there. Slammed down the GPS screenshot, demanded answers, gone full courtroom drama. But I didn't. Because if she was going to lie straight to my face, I wanted to let her. I wanted to see how deep she'd dig that grave with her own bare hands. The next day, I called Dylan. Car ran smooth. I asked, voice casual like we were talking about fantasy football. Yeah, thanks again, man, he replied. Had to run some errands. Appreciate it. Errands, huh? Yeah, nothing big. You ever hear a man betray his own blood with a voice so calm, so practiced, it makes you wonder how long he's been doing it? That was Dylan, cool as a cucumber floating in someone else's gin. I hung up, walked to the garage, and that's when I saw it. The smallest thing, but it hit like a freight train. Lip gloss. Not Madison's usual shade. This was red. Bright red. Sitting on the floor mat on the passenger side like it was proud of itself. She never wore red lipstick for me. And Dylan? He used to say red lipstick was too loud on women. Guess his taste evolved. Later that night, I asked Madison casually, "You talked to Kara today?" She blinked, mid-bite of her salad. What? Oh no, not today. Strange, I said, stabbing a crouton. Ran into her at the gas station. She said she hadn't seen you since last Friday. There it was. A flicker, barely perceptible. A heartbeat of hesitation before the lie formed. Oh, she must have meant in person. We talked on the phone. I said, like a man reading a weather forecast while the tornado sirens wailed outside. That night, after she went to sleep, I opened my laptop. And I opened a folder I'd started naming in my head that morning. The collection. Screenshots. Location logs. Voice memos. A text thread Dylan forgot to delete on a shared group chat. Pictures. Oh yeah, it was all starting to fall into place. But I wasn't going to confront them. Not yet. Because revenge isn't something you rush. You cook it. Slow. I've always believed that people show you who they really are when they think no one's watching. So I made sure to watch. The next morning, while Madison was still asleep, I installed a second GPS tracker, this one on her car. A tiny black square no bigger than a matchbox, clipped to the underside of the rear bumper with a magnet strong enough to survive an earthquake. My wife had lied to my face with the poise of a TED Talk speaker. If she could fake loyalty with that kind of grace, I figured I'd better start keeping receipts. And I didn't stop there. See, I work in IT. I'm not some neckbeard hacker living in his mom's basement, but give me a couple hours, and I can turn a smart fridge into a surveillance system. Our house already had a smart hub, thermostat, lights, even the vacuum. So slipping in a few silent apps and redirecting permissions wasn't just easy. It was almost too easy. By noon, I had set up a motion-triggered camera in the living room, posing as a bookshelf speaker. A keylogger on the home office computer, hers, not mine. And my personal favorite, a backup cloud server that caught every photo, text, and email her phone touched when it connected to our Wi-Fi. I wasn't building a case. I was building a museum. Now, this is the part in most stories where the guy finds something shocking right away. A lipstick-stained shirt, a steamy photo, a confession text accidentally sent to the wrong person. Nope. Madison played it cool. For days. She kissed me goodbye in the mornings. She texted me memes. She laughed at my jokes. And each time she did, I noted it like a scientist watching a snake pretend to be a rope. And Dylan? He'd gone radio silent. No texts. No calls. No, bro, you catch the game? It was like he could feel something in the air, some pressure building under the surface, and he'd rather ghost me than face it. Classic move. I'd seen him do it with girls, with bills, with problems. I guess it was my turn now. But here's the thing about people who think they've gotten away with something. They get sloppy. That Saturday, Madison said she was going to Kara's lake house for a girls' weekend. Oh, of course. The ever-useful Kara. Apparently, this woman had more off-the-grid properties than a doomsday prepper. She left mid-morning, travel mug in hand, overnight bag tossed into her trunk like she couldn't wait to disappear. As soon as she pulled out of the driveway, I opened my laptop. Her car's GPS pinged 2 towns over. Not near any lake. Not near Kara's place, which, for the record, I knew was being rented out to tourists on Airbnb, because I checked. She stopped at a gas station. 10 minutes later, another ping, at Dylan's apartment. And just like that, the charade was over. I didn't need a dramatic photo or a handwritten letter left on a hotel pillow. All I needed was a digital trail and the arrogance of two people who thought the world was too dim to notice the light bulbs burning out. They stayed there overnight. I knew this because, while I sat alone in our house, our perfectly normal house with its neutral walls and its double sinks, I watched the camera footage show nothing. No one came home. No one tiptoed back late at night. No quick explanation in the morning. No frantic lies about bad reception or dead batteries. Just silence. She returned Sunday afternoon. Walked in like she hadn't just spent 24 hours in my brother's apartment. Weekend was great, she said. Kara sends her love. I gave her a nod. You get a lot of rain up there? She blinked. Oh. Yeah. Totally poured Saturday night. Funny. Weather app showed nothing but sun. She paused just a beat too long. Well, maybe we got lucky. You know how those forecasts are. That was when I realized something strange. I wasn't mad. Not in the red-faced, shouting sense. I didn't want to scream, or cry, or punch holes in drywall like some sad internet meme. I just felt cold. Calm. Focused. Because this wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was about performance. She was lying. He was hiding. And I was sitting front row, popcorn in hand, watching the whole thing unravel in slow motion. That night, I uploaded the GPS logs to a folder labeled for later. The camera footage joined it. So did a screenshot of a text she deleted. Didn't even realize her phone was syncing everything. Miss you already, Redheart, it said. Sent to Dylan. Timestamped Saturday night. While she told me she was roasting marshmallows with Kara and her yoga crew. By Monday, I had my ducks in a row. I didn't confront her. I didn't confront him. Instead, I invited Dylan over. Need help moving some stuff in the garage, I said. He hesitated, like his conscience flinched. But then he said sure, and that was all I needed. Dylan pulled into the driveway around 3:12 p.m. He parked in the exact same spot Madison had used that Saturday morning, which felt poetic in a dark, twisted kind of way. As he stepped out of the car, wearing a hoodie 2 sizes too small and those ripped jeans he thought made him look edgy, I felt something shift. This wasn't the kid I grew up with. This was someone else. Someone who thought my wife was a souvenir he could pocket and parade around when he thought no one was looking. Yo, he called, walking into the garage like he still had the right to be casual. What needs moving? I smiled. Appreciate you coming. It's just a couple heavy boxes. Thought we could finally clear out that old shelving unit. He nodded, and for a second, it was just like old times. Two brothers shooting the breeze, lifting junk neither of us needed. He asked about my job. I asked if his car had stopped acting up. Surface-level stuff. The kind of conversation that floats like driftwood on an ocean full of sharks. And then, once I knew he was comfortable, settled, relaxed, I casually said, by the way, Madison's out. Girls' dinner. But she said to tell you hi. Dylan froze for a heartbeat. Just long enough. Oh, he said, playing it cool. Tell her I said hey. I nodded, watching him over the edge of the box I was lifting. Funny. She mentioned you the other day. His eyebrows twitched. She did. Yeah. Said she hadn't seen you in a while. You know, since Mom's birthday. I watched his mouth start to form a response, some pre-rehearsed line he probably practiced in the mirror. That's when I struck. I know. He blinked. Know what? I dropped the box. Not hard. Not dramatic. Just enough to let it land with a satisfying thump. I know about the motel. I know about her car being parked outside your place. I know you weren't running errands, Dylan. You were running your mouth and your hands on someone else's wife. Silence. He didn't deny it. He didn't even pretend to. He just exhaled like the lie had been a weight he was dying to put down. I didn't mean for it to happen, he said finally. That line. That classic, tired line. Like love is a car crash that just happens when you take your hands off the wheel and close your eyes. I crossed my arms. Was this a one-time mistake? Or are we talking reruns with commercial breaks? It started a couple months ago, he admitted, eyes on the concrete floor. She came over after a fight you guys had. She said she just needed to talk. I held up a hand. Spare me the Hallmark version. He fell silent again. You know, I said, when we were kids, I used to cover for you all the time. Told Mom it was me who broke the garage window. Took the heat when you bailed on school. You remember that? He nodded. And I did it because I figured that's what brothers did. We mess up. We protect each other. We keep it tight. But now I was staring at a stranger wearing my blood like a mask. I'm sorry, he said again. I didn't mean to hurt you. But he had. With full intent. Multiple times. And sorry doesn't unburn a bridge. It just makes you look at the ashes and go, well, guess we learned something. I grabbed a small black case off the nearby shelf and tossed it at his feet. What's this? He asked. Flash drive. Has everything on it. GPS records. Screenshots. Footage. Everything. He looked confused. Why would you give me this? Because you're going to deliver it. To who? Madison. He stared at me like I'd lost it. You want me to hand her evidence of our affair? I nodded slowly. Exactly. You're going to look her in the eye and admit what you did. Because if I do it, she'll spin it. But if you do it, that's different. And if I don't, I leaned in, voice calm. Then I send it to Mom. And Dad. And Kara. And your job. And your landlord. And your pastor. If you still pretend to believe in that stuff. He paled. You're not going to do that. You're not in a position to make assumptions anymore. Dylan picked up the flash drive like it burned. I watched his jaw twitch. You really want revenge that bad? I laughed once hollow. This isn't revenge. This is clarity. This is me giving you the dignity to fall on your own sword instead of waiting for me to shove it through your ribs. He said nothing after that. Just got in his car. Drove off. I stood in the garage, listening to the sound of his tires fade down the road. And for the first time in weeks, I breathed. Madison got home around 8:47 p.m. I remember the exact time because I was standing in the kitchen when the door creaked open, holding a mug of coffee I didn't need, watching the second hand on the wall clock like it owed me an explanation. She walked in all smiles. Lipstick a shade too dark. Jacket tossed casually over one shoulder like she was in a rom-com. She didn't expect anything. That was the beauty of it. Hey, babe, she said, kicking off her shoes. Smells good in here. I hadn't cooked. That was the scented candle she bought last month, the one labeled something stupid like warm vanilla aspen. The smell of fake comfort. Pretty fitting. Have a good dinner? I asked. She nodded, moving around the kitchen like she still owned the place. Yeah, it was fun. Kara's cousin came. The one from Portland? Total weirdo, but hilarious. Kara. Again. I took a sip of my coffee, steadying my breath. You see Dylan today? She blinked. Just a flicker. A barely there pause between footsteps. But I saw it. I lived for it. No, she said casually. Why? I shrugged. He stopped by, helped me move some stuff in the garage. Figured maybe you two crossed paths. Nope, she said, not missing a beat. Haven't seen him in a while. Now that was interesting, because less than an hour earlier, Dylan had been standing on our porch, holding a manila envelope with shaking hands. I'd watched from the upstairs window. Didn't hear the words, but I saw the scene. She opened the door. Saw him. Her posture shifted, arms crossed, jaw tight. Dylan said something. She shook her head. He said more. Then he handed it to her. The envelope. She stared at it like it was radioactive. He pointed to it. Said something else. And then, what really sealed the deal? She slapped him. Not hard. Not cinematic. Just sharp enough to sting. Then she slammed the door in his face. That was 15 minutes before she walked into our kitchen, acting like she hadn't just tried to knock the guilt off her own brother-in-law's jaw. So, I said slowly, you didn't happen to get a package today? She hesitated. No. Another sip of coffee. Because I got something earlier. Dylan dropped it off. Said it was for you. She tilted her head, innocent as a snake in a sandbox. That's weird. He didn't mention it. Oh, I said, voice level. Maybe you should open it. I reached to the side of the toaster and placed the envelope on the counter. Same one I'd retrieved after Dylan left. I hadn't opened it. I didn't need to. Madison stared at it like it might bite her. You gonna open it? I asked. What's in it? You tell me. She didn't touch it. I leaned back, eyes steady. See, I've been watching. Not spying. Not snooping. Watching. There's a difference. You ever see a nature documentary? The ones where the lioness lures her prey in by pretending to be harmless. Madison didn't answer. Just stood there, arms still crossed, eyes locked on the envelope like it might confess out loud. And I let it happen. I continued. Because I needed to be sure. Not that you were cheating. No, I knew that. Her eyes snapped up. I needed to be sure how far you'd go. Silence. You used to look at me like I was your whole world, I said. Now you look at me like I'm the final hurdle to your freedom. She finally opened her mouth. It's not what you think. Don't, I said, raising a hand. Don't insult both of us. I picked up the envelope and slid it toward her again. Go ahead. You're already in the deep end. Might as well read the tide chart. She opened it. Inside were the GPS logs, screenshots, timestamped photos, even a note Dylan had scribbled in the worst penmanship I'd ever seen. I'm sorry. He knows everything. She read it all in silence. Her face didn't crumble. It hardened, like glass exposed to too much heat. When she finally looked up, her voice was ice. Okay. So what now? Not, I'm sorry. Not, let me explain. Not even denial. Just, what now? That told me everything I needed to know. I'm not gonna scream, I said. Not gonna throw a plate or storm out like some soap opera character. But I'm also not gonna pretend. She leaned against the counter, arms tight across her chest. It wasn't planned. It just happened. I let out a short laugh. You think that makes it better? She opened her mouth again, but I cut her off. No, I get it now. You wanted something different. Someone who felt new. Maybe someone who didn't remind you of the bills or the lawn or the 6 years of history you used to love. She said nothing. I looked at her, really looked at her, and all I saw was someone I used to know. Someone who wore my ring, slept in my bed, smiled in our wedding photos like forever meant something. So what now? She asked again. Now? I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't throw anything across the kitchen. Instead, I made pasta. She sat on the couch, still clutching the opened envelope like it was a mistake she could fold back into place. Why are you making dinner? She asked. Because, I said, pulling the pot from the stove, I like to be full when I make big decisions. She didn't eat. Just watched me chew in silence while a rerun played on mute behind us. It was a weird kind of peace, the eye of a very personal hurricane. After I rinsed my plate, I walked upstairs, grabbed the folder from my desk, and came back down. It was thicker than hers. Receipts, photos, emails, bank transfers to a hotel under Dylan's name, a lease agreement on a second apartment he had signed a few weeks ago. One Madison had visited 3 times in the past month. She hadn't even used a burner phone. They thought I was too trusting. They were wrong. I dropped the folder next to her on the couch. You have 3 days to move out, I said. I already talked to a lawyer. I'm not fighting you for the house. But you're not staying here. And where am I supposed to go? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. I shrugged. You've got options. You've had plenty of practice. She didn't respond. The next day, I visited our parents. Both sets. Mine first. Then hers. Nothing dramatic. Just coffee and conversation. With a flash drive handed off at the end like a business card. No lecture. No sob story. Just the facts. This is everything, I told them. What they did. How long it went on. I don't want you to take sides, but I do want you to know the truth. Her mother cried. Mine hugged me like I'd come back from war. Dylan's name didn't come up much. It didn't have to. He was already halfway to exile. The real surprise came that evening. Madison's sister called me Anna. We weren't close, but she always liked me. I just talked to her, she said. She's not doing great. She made her bed. I know, Anna said. I'm not calling to defend her. I'm calling to ask what you're going to do. What do you mean? You're calm. Too calm. And she's terrified. Good, I said, and hung up. I met Dylan at a diner 2 days later. Neutral ground. 2 cups of black coffee and 20 years of history between us. He looked worse than I expected. Unshaven. Nervous. Like he hadn't slept since Madison opened that envelope. Why'd you ask me here? He asked. I pushed a small envelope across the table. Inside was a printed letter of resignation from his job. Sign it, I said. You can't. I'm not threatening you. I'm offering you a way out. Quietly. Before I send the flash drive to your boss. Your coworkers. Your HR department. He stared at me, then at the paper. I thought you'd punch me. I smiled. That would heal faster. He signed. Then I slid him a second envelope. This one had a one-way bus ticket inside and a list of 3 places I knew he had no connections. Pick one, I said. You leave by Friday. You don't come back. You don't text. You don't call. You disappear. His lip quivered. You're serious. As cancer. He didn't argue. By Friday, they were both gone. She moved in with a friend temporarily. He left the state. The house was quiet in a way that didn't hurt anymore. It felt mine again. Like peace had been waiting for 2 people to evacuate before it came home. Friends called. Some apologized. Some offered drinks. A few asked what I'd do next. Whatever I want, I told them. I changed the locks. I repainted the bedroom. I canceled the streaming accounts under her name. Then I sat down on the back deck with a whiskey and did something I hadn't done in months. I breathed. No shouting match. No fireball of vengeance. Just control. Dignified. Quiet. Devastating. Because I didn't burn the bridge. I sold the land under it. Madison and Dylan didn't just lose me. They lost everything they built on the lie. And me? I didn't lose a thing. I reclaimed it.